champions in that division. You got Scott Quinn, Carl Frampton, Guillermo Rigondeaux.
I'm gonna get the opportunity, boy. You working your ass off, don't you?
Hey, that's what we do. That's what we do.
Dante's Boxing Nation. I see it, baby. Y'all the man.
That's what it is.
I love what you're doing for boxing.
Thank you, man.
Don't stop. Keep on going strong. Keep on going hard. A lot of big fights coming this year. A lot of big fights.
Hi, you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation. Woo! Hey.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? Now, you know that when all of the boxers that are under the PBC banner are extremely happy to work with Al Haymon. No one is trying to sue Al Haymon. We've seen boxers complain about other promoters, right? We've seen other boxers try to sue their promoters. Bob Arum, for example, we've seen it happen on many occasions. No one is trying to sue Al Haymon. Everyone is happy with their contract. Rock Nation tried to offer Adrian Broner this huge amount of money to leave Al Haymon and go with Rock Nation. Broner said hell to the no, because Al Haymon is treating me way too damn good. And he stayed loyal to the PBC series and Al Haymon, right? So it's one thing to have the fighters that love their employer. And when I use the word love, I really mean love, because Leo Santa Cruz, he named his son after Al Haymon. That is real love, okay? So you got the fighters that love their employer. You have the boxing fans that are loving watching free fights damn near every week, right, on free television. But when you have your nemesis that's also praising you, that unequivocally seals the deal. One more time. If Al Haymon's biggest enemy, who was trying to sue him, and by the way, tried to sue him to no avail, because the biggest part of that case got thrown out by the judge, so now Bob Arum really has no case anymore. But the fact that Bob Arum himself is forced to give Al Haymon all the credit in the world, it once again tells you that anything you've ever heard a small percentage of decaf say is completely false. And that was all based on Al Haymon being on the coincidental list and not having his Hope insurance or his Hope insurance card, if you know what I mean. Let's go ahead and talk about Bob Arum and what he actually said in this recent interview. So Bob Arum was basically asked a question. This all stems from the Crawford situation, where everyone has turned down a Terrence Crawford fight, from Manny Pacquiao to Ruslan Provodnikov to Mauricio Herrera. Three very tough fighters were not willing to get in the ring with a fighter who's been considered the next Floyd Mayweather, the future of the sport. He's been praised ridiculously, right? For good reason. So this all stems from that, okay? So out of frustration, Bob Arum, he was asked a question, and I say out of frustration because he answered the question in frustration. When he was asked, why are these fighters turning down Terrence Crawford? And then he was asked the question, is this starting to become a trend where more fighters are avoiding other fighters? And this is when Bob Arum, he was like, yeah, these fighters, they're asking for an insane, unridiculous, or unrealistic, amount of money because of the ability of Terrence Crawford. This is what he said, okay? Then later on, like I said, once again, when he was asked if the caution displayed today by boxers and their management is worse than ever, this is how Bob Arum answered the question. He said, absolutely, because of the insane purses that are being paid with Waddell and Reed's money. For those of you guys who don't know who Waddell and Reed is, they're basically Team Al Haymon. These are the financial backers of Al Haymon. So he tried to say it in a certain way so he didn't have to flat out come out and say because of Al Haymon, but he's talking about Al Haymon when he says Waddell and Reed. It's kind of like trying to give Al Haymon credit for Floyd Mayweather being rich, but don't give Floyd Mayweather the credit for earning all of the money. You see what I'm saying? So let's go back to that last line that Bob Arum said. Because of the insane purses that are being paid to the fighters in the Al Haymon roster, the PBC roster, whatever you want to call it. Let's put this in proper perspective so you can really understand what Bob Arum just said. Let me throw a name out there. Let's just say, fuck it. Let's say McDonald's, since we all know that name. And I'm just going to throw a random number out there. Let's just say everybody's working at McDonald's, right? Everybody in this area. They're getting paid $10 an hour, right? Word starts getting around. There's another burger place down the street that's starting off at $15 an hour, right? Now this McDonald's, they've been working at this McDonald's for damn near a year or two. They're still only getting paid $10 an hour. This job down the street, they start you off at $15 an hour, right? So everyone starts leaving this McDonald's, they go to this other burger place. And now they got a $5 raise. They have better insurance, right? Their customers are happy. Everyone is happy. It's like Happy Land down the street, right? No stress. Everything is good. So once again, all these employees are leaving McDonald's to go to this other place. Now McDonald's, is on a decline and business is not doing so good anymore. And then someone asked the owner of this McDonald's, why is business so bad? And the owner, he replies by saying, because that damn burger place down the street is paying the employees way too much money. I'm talking about handing out insane purses to these employees. So I asked the obvious question, is that a bad thing or is that a good thing? We already know that it's a good thing, right? This is what Bob Arum just said about Al Haymon. He just made a stunning admission, if you will. He just told the public, the boxing community, that not only is Al Haymon putting fights on free TV, on damn near all the major networks, but he's also paying his fighters way more than Bob Arum is paying his fighters. Decafs, please explain to me, how is it you cannot like the fact that Al Haymon is taking care of the fighters? On top of taking care of the fighters, he's taking care of the fans by giving us more boxing to watch. Like I said on many occasions, if you guys look at all the fights that we've seen last year, Al Haymon had tons of cards where it was undefeated fighters going up against undefeated fighters, right? You had Chris Pearson versus Eric Walker, and that's just one. I can name a whole bunch of them, but that's one of the main ones that stands out because it was close to the end of the year, right? You had a lot of undefeated fighters going up against each other. And even if they weren't undefeated, you had fights that were candidates for fight of the year, round of the year, like Seal versus Rodriguez. You had Thurman, Guerrero, Danny Garcia versus Lamont Peterson, and a lot of these fights were on free TV. Leo Santa Cruz versus Abner Mares that broke records on ESPN. Okay? Most of these fights are on regular TV, where you don't have to pay an additional subscription just to watch the fight. You know, a lot of boxing fans are like me. You only have Showtime or HBO maybe just because of the fights that come on. Well, with the PBC series, you don't have to have HBO and Showtime just to watch those fights. Because Fox, NBC, CBS, those channels, they come with any basic package, right? And even if you want to be a smartass and say, hey, well, what about ESPN? You have to pay a little bit more for that. But you're not paying the same amount of money that you're paying for HBO. We know that HBO and Showtime are the most expensive channels. Okay? So once again, the point that I'm making is everyone is happy. Everyone is happy. And even by Bob Arum's own admission, Al Haymon is paying. Al Haymon is that job that everyone wants, right? Al Haymon is that job that everyone has put in an application and hoping that they'll get. Okay? Boy, that's saying a lot. That's saying a lot. And, you know, I'll close out with asking the decafs this question. Because, you know, a lot of decafs, they love to use these type of default talking points. And, you know, they get these talking points from other decafs. And they never really put too much thought into it. You know, they just take a talking point and run with it. But they never really thought about if the talking point even makes sense. They just go with it because it's therapeutic for them. It feels good just to say it. For example, let me ask you guys a question. So you say you don't like Al Haymon because he puts on mismatches. Now, I've already proved that we've gotten more big fights from Al Haymon than any other promoter. I mean, it's just simple math. If Al Haymon is putting on, I'm just throwing a number out there, but if Al Haymon is putting on 100 cards, right? And out of the 100 cards, let's just say, 60 of the cards are barn burners, right? I'm talking about Guerrero versus Thurman, Leo Santa Cruz versus Mares, Garcia versus Lamont Peterson, Seal versus Rodriguez, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So 60% of them are barn burners, 60 out of 100. But then you have the other promoting companies or promotion companies. Now, they don't have 100 cards. They only have 20 cards. And out of their 20 cards, let's say, 5 of them were barn burners. That's just simple math, right? Who put on the best fights quality-wise? Who put on the most big fights? It is simple math. It's obviously Al Haymon, right? So I would ask a decaf this question. If you still wanted to stick with this talking point, let's just go ahead and stick with it, you know, for conversation's sake. Let me ask you this question. What fights would you like to see inside of the PBC stable? Inside of that Al Haymon stable, what fights would you like to see? In other words, who would you like to see matched up in that stable? Now, if you answer the question, the problem you're going to have is the fighters that you bring up, they're most likely going to fight each other. Because if you notice the pattern, once Al Haymon signs these fighters, guess what? He puts them up against each other. That's right. Al Haymon, he signed Lamont Peterson, Danny Garcia, put them up against each other. He signed Thurman, Guerrero, put them up against each other. Who do you think Danny Garcia is going to end up fighting next if he ends up beating Guerrero? he's going to most likely fight the winner of Thurman versus Porter, which is a fight that's supposed to be announced any time now. And if he doesn't fight them, he's going to fight some other top welterweight in the stable. So I'll leave you guys with that question. You tell me what fights you want to see for 2016 inside of the PBC and the Al Haymon stable. That's all I got. I'm on to the next one.